This is the Seoul Podcast, the only thing in Korea that you can't purchase on coupon. I'm King Sejong, reminding you that in Korea, pizza toppings and ice cream flavors use similar ingredients. And here are your hosts, Emma Kalka and Joe McPherson.
And welcome to the Seoul Podcast. This is Joe.
And I'm Emma.
This week we have an old friend of the show, Roboseyo. Can we say your name now, or is it still secret?
It's not quite secret, but when I'm online, I do still like to go by it.
Roboseyo.
Yeah, Roboseyo. My Facebook name is no longer Roboseyo because Facebook's real name thing came up and they didn't let me keep that.
Oh,
But I have reservations about, I would prefer it be a little harder for my students to find my blog by Googling, just because, hey man, they might read something in there about, I don't know, like Japan or sexism or something that they don't like. And I don't need that noise in my workplace. So, yeah.
Makes
Yeah.
sense.
Or my nightmare of nightmares, of course. Somebody disagreed with something sorry?
They find this podcast.
No, nightmare of nightmares is somebody reads something they disagree with on my blog and show up at my wife's workplace ready to argue with me at her workplace.
Oh my.
And because of the type of work she has, I don't want that to happen.
Yeah,
So,
it'd be a little shop
yeah.
of horror situation.
Yeah, that would be no good. That would be no good. I have a whole lot of opinions about Japan. I actually, during grad school, I wrote one of my major papers about Japan, the Korea-Japan history thing.
Oh boy.
But I've been hesitant to put any of that up on my website, just because it's a minefield, right? And you've got to step carefully. And even if you do step carefully, it only takes one Yahoo.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, I thought I was in a safe space as a food writer, but there's so many mines you can step on as a food writer. But on the other hand,
especially these days, the whole cultural ownership thing makes
I'm very careful about that too now.
And that food is really fraught with that stuff. The whole cultural appropriation thing is like, food is the area where I see that come up probably the most.
I see that a lot.
Yeah.
I see that a lot. I'm always listening and trying to find out what is it that people are upset about, and what can we do to alleviate that? I don't know. Sometimes I think it's just people. Okay, here I'm going to get really in dangerous territory.
Yeah. What a great start to the show. Hey.
I think it's alienated children of the diaspora who feel like that their mom's cooking is their culture.
Okay.
And they're defending their parents in some ways. I think a lot of people that are children of Korean immigrants, they feel like defending Korea is defending their family, their parents, and something like that. It's personal.
Well,
even though a lot of the people claiming, oh, this is Korean food or this isn't Korean food, have never, ever lived, worked, paid taxes in Korea itself.
Yeah. Well, I grew up in a Dutch community, and like the Netherlands is a Dutch Canadian community. The Netherlands is a really fast changing country. A really rapidly changing society. Like you look at, it was like the first country in the world, or one of them, to legalize marijuana and stuff like that. But what you found was, depending on when people immigrated to Canada, their values were set in that time of Dutch society. So people who immigrated sooner would be more conservative than people who immigrated later.
Yeah,
right?
I have this other pet hypothesis. I don't like to say theory because theories have been tested, and I don't have a way to test this. Is when people immigrate to another country, they not only bring their culture with them, they bring their zeitgeist with them.
Okay.
You understand what I mean by that? Like I got a good friend of mine. He'll come on the show sometime. I won't say who it is. But he grew up in the UK. But his father is from Daegu.
Yep.
And they've been living in the UK since the 70s, early 70s. And he says that when his father comes and visits his old friends in Daegu and they go out, they're embarrassed by him because he acts like he acts like how people in Daegu did in 1970. Yeah. I first started coming up with this idea when I visited New York in 2010, and of course, being the Korean food guy, people wanted to take me out for Korean food. I'm like, I'm leaving Korea so I can have something other than Korean food. Nonetheless, humored it. So some friends of mine ate at a Korean place in Koreatown in Manhattan.
Yep.
And then sometime later, some friends took me out to some Korean places out in Queens, or further than that. And I noticed that the stuff out in Queens was a little more modern than the stuff in Manhattan.
Yep.
It felt like Manhattan was you were going back into the 1980s, 1970s. And Queens was more like what you have in 2000, 2005.
Okay, I gotcha. Yeah. Yeah, but that's like, I'm not sure. I'd have to go look into it, how much that is studied. But that's a phenomenon that would actually be really interesting to,
right. It's the McPherson theory of culture.
Research.
There we go.
The blogger Ask a Korean calls this the what does he call it? He calls it the immigrant time warp.
Oh, that's a good one too.
Oh.
Right, and he says basically he's giving the same kind of thing where apparently like Dutch, the language changes so fast that you can, if you have a really good ear, I'm told you can even tell when somebody immigrated by the accent they use or the idioms and words they use.
A lot of English, if you go through the regional, there's regional studies of vernacular in the U.S. And they're able to trace a lot of when groups move to the U.S. based on the words they use and the accents they have.
Like there's somebody who came to Korea, in the early 90s who's still making not jokes, right?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Okay, this is turning this around. I mean,
that's
a lot of us, all of us have been here a long time. I'm starting to lean on the getting close to 20 years here, fairly in a few years. Yeah, so I'm basically an immigrant here.
14.
You're coming up on 14.
I'm just going to grab my headphones for a second.
Yeah, you do that. You see, that's what happens when you come here. You live
Let you
for
all
this
look
long,
at
you
my
forget
crotch for a second there.
Oh no.
freeze frame.
But
okay, have you noticed it happening to you?
Well, that's just the thing, right? Is that like the way people are talking about the world and issues on Twitter now is different than it used to be. And like, for example, here in Korea, we're teaching, if you're teaching, low level English, you're teaching he and she and stuff like that. But somebody who's lived in Korea since 2010 would never think that part of good graces, part of good manners in North America now might be asking somebody what their pronouns are.
Oh, right. Yeah, we were talking about this. I remember at my birthday party, we got into a long conversation about this. Like
at your birthday party, I was like, like I try my best to be woke and all that stuff and to keep up with, the justice issues of the day. But I've never been asked my pronouns, and I'm sure that it's going to take me some time to get used to it if I ever end up back in Canada. Now, I'm sorry, Emma, I interrupted you.
No, it's fine. No, like I was saying, we were talking about how, because we'd all been here for over a decade and kind of missed that sort of transition that was happening back in our home countries where people
the wokening.
The wokening. Yeah.
The wokening. That's what we should call it. The wokening.
I'm not sure that might actually be the word for it, but yeah, we missed it, right? We missed it.
Being
And now people are putting people are putting their pronouns on their name tags now.
I'm frozen in soon post 9/11 Bush era America. That's when I left. I left right when they let out the pilot for Battlestar Galactica. That's how far back. Back when they just premiered Lost. Wow.
I gotta think about this. Okay, I left. When did I think I left the year that the first Twilight movie came out. 2007.
When I first got here. Okay, here's a fun one. I remember the first movie that was had simultaneous global release. Like before, and it was The Matrix Reloaded. Was the first movie that was released in Korea on the same night as opening night in America.
Wow.
Before that, you had to wait months. But I came when The Two Towers was in the cinema. And
yeah, that's a little bit before me. Yes, that was a little bit before me.
College.
Oh,
I remember. Oh, in college, not in middle school.
Wait, no, hold on. I'm sorry. I don't wait. No, this high school. I think this was high school.
You're still in high school. Yeah.
End of high school, early college. I can't remember because
I was teasing Emma. I was teasing Emma about her youth yesterday as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But I was already on my first divorce by then.
Okay, I guess you win.
Yeah. That was back when I still didn't even know how to bury a body.
But for me, it's really hard. I think because I've lived here, it's really hard for me to conceive that 20 years have really passed because in my brain, it is still kind of 2002 in some ways. Not like the big difference between like 1990 and 1970. You can really see culturally a giant difference between those times.
Yeah.
I don't see that between 2021 and 2001. Or I'm just unplugged from the zeitgeist. I mean, I'm sure
it is. If you went back to America and spent 3 months, there would be stuff you'd notice in your first week, and there would be stuff you'd notice in your second month, and by the end of 3 or 6 months, you'd be like, okay, there's been a lot of change, but a lot of it's stuff that you don't just put your finger on, right? Like some of it's like, well, people used to wear neon colors, but now they wear gray colors. But a lot of it's just like the way people talk about things, the way people think about things, little stuff.
Yeah. I was just watching last night. I have the CBS online streaming service, whatever. I was catching up on some Star Trek. But I got the version where they throw in commercials. And so I'm seeing the ads. Now I'll tell you this, the ads have changed a lot.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I remember there were like prescription drug ads, but now it's just all over the place and a lot of the tech stuff. Like there was an ad for a debit card for your child.
Oh.
Those exist now?
Yeah, that you control through an app. Yeah.
Yes, so kids these days.
I remember online banking was not a thing in the States when I left.
Oh yeah.
I remember when I came to Korea and discovered that you could transfer money from the ATM and that checks were not a thing. I was just like, what is this magic?
Oh yeah, checks. Yep. Yeah, that's a big now we're talking about culture shock now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, now we're going into culture. But yeah.
Yeah, because I was reverse culture shock going back to America and people still using checks, paper checks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I haven't been back to the States in 2-3 years. I think it's been about 3 years since the last time I went home.
For me too, it's I think 2017 maybe.
Yeah, it was summer 2017. I went home for my dad's wedding, but then we were in Fort Myers, Florida. So it was kind of it was its own little world.
2012 for me.
We were on the beach.
Oh my god!
Yeah, different.
And
It's
last time I
different.
went back, in 2012, I said, okay, I'm going to be back to visit more often. And every time I say that, it takes me longer before I go back and visit. 2012, but the girls visited last year, so that made up for it. Boy.
Well, and now we've got a pandemic, so
Yeah.
no one can go.
Yeah,
Who knows? Who knows
I
when
don't
it'll
know.
be?
I've never eaten at
I know.
Chipotle. I've never.
I've never eaten at Chipotle either.
Yeah.
It was Panera bread.
Yeah, I remember Panera. That was right when I was
Panera Bread.
leaving. Five Guys, never ate at.
Oh, I have eaten there. When I went to Otakon, my friends introduced me to Five Guys. I am wearing my Hufflepuff. I told you I would.
I
wear
like
it for you,
that.
Rob, and I
Aw.
wore it for you.
Hufflepuff.
Thank you, Emma. That's great. Emma and I are both Hufflepuffs, Joe. What's your house?
I do not know.
I like that instead of doing I like how everybody has these dumb personality test things now. They're just fun, but I also love how like on Facebook it's like, hey, give us your personal information, tell us a bunch of your preferences and we'll add you to our database. And oh look, you're Carrie, not Samantha. You know? Like,
Surprise!
I got that reference.
Your house Stark. No, wait, your house Bolton. And meanwhile, we've got you in our database now. Woohoo! I like that, but I'm glad that we have moved on from the ISTJ stuff, the Myers-Briggs.
I can't remember what mine is.
I know what mine is.
It's all hokum anyway.
Something.
I used to be ENFP. Now I'm more INFP, but
I am
I think I'm
INFP.
ENFP. I think is what I am.
You're
I used to
extroverted?
be I.
we have
and then
three NFPs in the same podcast. How about that?
Ooh.
I used to be introverted,
What about-
and then I switched to extroverted.
I'm a Libra, though. What are you guys?
Pisces.
Sagittarius.
Pisces, Sagittarius. Okay,
Mm.
what are your
I
blood
don't know
types?
what that means for me.
Oh,
What are your
I'm,
blood types?
I'm
I
the
need
sexy one.
to judge you in every way I can.
I'm
I don't
negative.
know what that means.
Oh, negative. I'm AB. I'm an unusual one. I'm AB negative.
Ooh,
I'm
that is rare too.
AB positive.
Dang, you're the universal receiver.
I'm the universal donor.
Yay!
You can take blood from anyone.
I can
You're
take
O
blood
negative?
from anyone.
Yeah.
That's awesome. You're like one step away from being a vampire already.
well,
I think we all knew that day was coming. It's coming somewhere.
I really like this this concept, and I don't really get to talk about that too much about what I've been calling the Zeitgeist, the Korean. We're talking about that's his name. Talks about the time warp, the cultural time warp. He says.
I think he called
Immigrant
it
time
immigrant
warp?
time warp. Yeah.
Yeah.
Immigrant
But
time warp.
you could we
But I
could
think of
expand
Rocky
that to
Horror when
expat
he
time
says
warp
that.
too, yeah.
Mhm.
But it's something that I've really been thinking about. Like, when you're here, people sometimes treat you like a cultural ambassador, right? People are like, well, how do they do it in America anyway, right?
Mm,
And
I don't know anymore.
that's just it.
yeah.
About 5 years into my time in Korea, I started saying, well, I might not be the guy to ask anymore because it's been a while. So
Yeah.
Mhm.
I can tell you how it was in 2003, but that doesn't necessarily mean that's still how they do it.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But still I can give better advice than they're getting right now on how to market to Americans.
Sure. Okay. Question.
Mhm.
It seems like all three of us are like aware of this thing that can happen. Is there anything you do to try and stay in the loop? And
Oh, yeah.
when you do it, are you intentional about like, oh, hey, here's this new idiom that I need to pick up. I need to make sure my use of this new idiom is on fleek in order to
I've never said that. Never have I said that.
stay, hep to the hep cats
Yeah.
if I'm trying to get a grasp of the culture I left.
Yeah, I mean, I try to keep up with stuff on BuzzFeed, I guess, because that's the millennial Gen Z site.
Yeah.
YouTube,
I
TikTok,
visit AOL regularly.
TikTok. I'm on TikTok. Oh, I'm thankful I do
And
have a
dig.
daughter. I have a daughter and I like to keep up with what she's interested in.
Mhm.
I do make it a note. I do make it a note sometimes. I mean, there's a certain subject I like on YouTube. Like I watch a lot of Star Wars videos, but I find myself, I tend to subscribe to people who are much younger than me, like 20 years younger than me, 20,
Mhm.
20 and that way I'm
That's
able
why,
to.
Joe. That's why you have all those that's why you have all those models on your Instagram. I'm just trying to keep up with the slang that they're using. It's not about the photos, I swear. I just read the articles. That's why I buy those magazines.
I do try to consciously, because I'm very aware. My dad was always, I love my dad, but I think he was out of touch even when he was a teenager. I think he was he was listening to old people's music when he was 19.
Oh yeah.
And
I think
I'm aware of
me,
that. So
it
I don't want to
helps.
be like that. I don't want to be like that. I want
Right.
to always keep my brain cells in motion,
Yeah.
in new experiences, and just
Sure,
keep up
sure.
with things. Yeah, because that's the other
I
thing.
have
I'm
some-
scared of Alzheimer's, so I'm always.
I
trying
have
to
some
keep
Facebook
fresh.
friends who like they only ever talk about 90s music, you know?
Oh
like,
yeah. I had a friend who's always had his earphones on. I'm like, but it's the same 70s rock, 70s dad rock,
Yeah.
over and over again. He's not listened to anything beyond 1992, and I'm like, of course, 70s through 90 was the best time for music, but there are things outside of that, and I'm always trying to find new things. I'm always looking for new music.
I
too.
listen to new music. I've got some white stripes on my MP3 player right now.
No, but I was also.
You heard of the Strokes?
I was also kind of separate from my generation, because while my generation was into grunge, I was into like ambient and new age, which people made fun of me for that, but that's now the popular thing people are going for.
I got into ambient and well, not so much new age, but I got into ambient and electronica as I got older because it is such good study and focus music.
Yeah, it's what I used to focus. Yeah. I'm pretty good at it.
Yeah. But there's and to be honest, this is a really good time for interesting new music. There's a lot of really good music coming out these days.
Oh yeah, you are a music nerd.
Not so much in rock, but like every other genre is just exploding right now.
Ah, well, that's cool.
Really, my Apple's music subscription is a great thing because it kind of puts together. I mean, they have playlists that they update once a week, so it's like new music, and then depending on how long you've used it, it will curate your new music playlist depending on the types of music that you listen to the most.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it'll input artists that you already listen to a lot, or artists that are like those artists. So I discover a lot of new music through my iTunes Apple Music subscription.
I'm doing it.
And they also
YouTube
have
music.
like today's hits. So I'll go through that playlist every once in a while.
You never
to
find
see
anything
what
in that.
everybody's into right now.
You never find anything like never anything good. Rarely. Well, right now trying to do the automated curated mix now is going to have a lot of Christmas music. Because I was listening to Christmas music a month ago.
Mine never had Christmas music.
Oh, but my Christmas music is weird too. So that's
It's got a lot of acoustic. No, I think about it. Right now. It's a lot of acoustic.
No,
stuff.
I found ambient electronica Christmas music, and it's weird, and I love it.
That's great. I'm trying to imagine an electronica Christmas, just like fa la 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 la.
No, it's not like this. It's this cold ambient stuff. It's really dark, and it really works.
If I had been a little faster, I wrote a parody this year. I rewrote the lyrics of Song for a Winter's Night because nobody writes love letters anymore. So do you know that song for a Winter's Night? It's a Gordon Lightfoot song. Sarah McLachlan covered it, a really lovely version.
Okay.
You know, and the theme of the song is that basically, you know, it's a winter's night and the candle is dying and I'm reading love letters from you, and if I could only have you near. But nobody writes love letters anymore. So I rewrote the lyrics for like dirty text messages. I did the sexting version of Song for a Winter's Night. If I could only send some nudes. Yeah.
What? But there's no cell service? Is that what's going on?
Yeah. Instead of the candles dying, the battery's dying.
And I lost my charger.
Yeah, I lost my charger. The filter is dim.
Oh my.
Yeah. Yeah. This was the thing I did this year during lockdown when I was home too much. I started playing around in the music, the GarageBand, the music app that you get when you have a Mac computer.
Yeah.
And I started making songs on it, and that was fun.
Still haven't opened that.
You haven't opened it?
I have a MacBook, but I've never opened GarageBand. I should check it out.
There's a bit of a learning curve, but like after some time of tinkering around and stuff, like the Cafe Soul podcast, I made the music that we're using at the beginning and to introduce the segments for it.
Very cool.
And it was like fun trying to make them. And one of them is riffing on the Terminator theme song, the theme music.
Yeah.
And you just go find a MIDI file of the Terminator theme music and you can import it right into GarageBand. And then I like put in some lyrics and it worked.
I just realized again what an awful host I am. I didn't even make any announcements of like how people should know you.
Oh,
I just assumed that people knew you. I didn't plug any project you've done.
Well, we know him. We've known Rob a long time. Everybody should know Rob. Oh my God.
I'm very famous among my friends.
Yeah.
It seems. So do you want to ask me a few questions and I'll tell people who I am and why this weirdo is on their Soul podcast?
So Rob.
Who are you, Rob?
Yes, Joseph.
Rob, you've seen. God, Rob is one of the big bloggers from the early days. Mm-hmm. You still don't have a domain name. You still at roboseyo.blogspot.com.
You know, I had roboseyo.com and I let it expire because it was just I never got around to it, and it was costing me money and I wasn't using it. And by the time I was like, oh, hey, I have some free time to actually create a roboseyo.com website, blogs were on the outs anyway. So like, I don't know, somewhere around 2014, I would say YouTube became the best way to communicate with people with your whatever message you have to say about Korean culture or whatever. That's where the audiences were. That's also where the advertising money was and all that stuff, right? Like,
yeah,
that's where the subscriptions and followers are. And, you know, I have a friend who does she started a YouTube channel like a year ago, just translating some of the Korean phrases in BTS songs into English. And what an easy way to get. And she's got 3,000 followers with just doing once a week, right?
I mean, that's a lot of work, but still, I'm just like,
it's a lot of work, but
what a genius way of.
But that's like 2 or 3 years of numerous blog posts a month at Roboseyo, and I had, I think, 240 followers by the end of it.
Yeah.
You know, and she's doing a video a week on YouTube, and she's got 3,000 subscriptions. So good for her, right? Good for her.
Yeah, that's fine. That's good. Yeah, I missed out on I was one of the first people in Korea to have a YouTube channel, but I just didn't know what to do with it when I had it. I didn't have anything I could take videos with at the time. And when I did do videos, I was trying to do like moody food videos. Nothing with. I didn't know you could just put. I didn't know people would just subscribe to you if you just put the camera on and talk to the camera. I was like,
just
well,
point the camera at your face and rant for a while.
Didn't know that. And I'm on. Even though I am doing podcasts and stuff, my ego is there, but not so high that I really think people want to hear me that much. Even though I do the Driving in Korea podcast where I just rant in front of the camera, but
that's basically what you do in that one. Yeah.
Yeah. But I don't, well, you see, I don't do it that often. I don't really feel the compelled.
I really think that's the key. Like, I think it's less that like, this is the smartest person out there and more that this is the person who has something new every week. And the people
that's what they say. And they go up in the algorithm. The same thing with Instagram too.
Yeah. The people who had something new every week are the ones who got all the love. And, like, I mean, Simon and Martina from Eat Your Kimchi, right? We were around, you and we were around when they were brand new.
I interviewed them. I interviewed them for the Korea Herald and met them.
We talked about them on this show before they were famous. We talked about, I talked about this new YouTube couple. This is before they decided to go into K-pop, and I was like, oh, this is I think it was in our Time Wasters segment where where we would just talk about stuff we find on the internet, and I said, oh yeah, there's this couple, they just came here from Canada, and they had this funny video where they and some of their fellow teachers were trying convenience store snacks, and it was back when they had no polish at all. It was just pointing at a camera, and it was just the same as every other videos at the time. But I caught something there back then. I thought they'd be interesting, and then they pivoted towards the K-pop thing and blew up, and were able to afford better stuff.
I was one of the first people to link them on the sidebar, and I was like, hey, here's this new thing. Some people are doing this by YouTube instead of a blog. Look at these wacky YouTubers.
Yeah.
But also, like, I talked to Simon once about, during grad school, I wrote a paper about bloggers and things, and I talked to a bunch of bloggers, and like Simon told me that the culture stuff, the culture talking stuff, like the K-pop Mondays, that drove a lot of traffic because people would vote for which video they should do next week.
Yeah, that's true.
Mobilizing the K-pop fans to vote against each other was genius, because that means all those K-pop fans has to come to your website.
That is genius. That is genius.
It was brilliant, a brilliant visibility trick. But Simon told me that the videos that had staying power that people are still watching are the ones where they're talking about the culture, where they're talking about stuff.
Yeah. I've noticed that too. With my website and my videos, we have what's called a cornerstone post. WordPress calls it that. Yeah, they're just ones getting all the traction. In fact, last year I only made maybe 2 or 3 posts last year, and one of my posts was just the one breaking down Parasite, and that just blew up. And that's a cornerstone.
If it's timely, that's key. Like I remember when Gangnam Style was first coming out, I was like, hey, should I write a thing about this? There's somebody said something on Reddit. But if I had been like the first person with a blog post about Gangnam Style, who knows?
I have a story about that.
I brought, when it was first going viral, I went on the radio and said, here's what the blogs are buzzing about today. I did a weekly segment on that. But then I never actually wrote something, and But,
I had a bigger.
Okay, tell us, Emma.
I had an even bigger miss. So right after Gangnam Style had come out, but before it got super big in the States, it was the first time that Ultra Music Festival had come to Korea. And so I was there covering it for the Herald, and their press tickets, they actually gave press VIP tickets. So I was like in the VIP, and one of my good friends that I've known forever, he's the guitarist for Yoon Do-hyun band for YB.
Yeah.
And so they had a VVIP table. So, but Scott would get super bored with them and come out and talk to me most of the time. The second night I went back, I was alone, and he snuck me in to their VVIP table. And so I'm just like standing there and I'm like, so yeah, I'm with Scott, who's cool as all get out. Yoon Do-hyun is talking to me and is like, oh yeah, Scott's told us so much about you. And I'm like, holy shit. There, Jang Gun-sok is like getting drunk over at the table. Like this is all in this area.
Yeah.
And so me and another friend, and we were kind of leaning against the railing watching the show. I think it was like Tiesto was on. I'm not really into electronic music that much. At least I wasn't back then.
I know who that is.
And then suddenly I just kind of get pushed to the side. And I'm like, I look and I glare. I'm like, excuse you. And Psy turns around in the suit and the sunglasses. And I can see Yoon Do-hyun just behind him. And I guess like, I went from like looking extremely pissed off to, oh my God, in an instant, because Yoon Do-hyun starts cracking up at the look on my face. And I'm just like,
you got shoved by Psy.
Back
That's
away slowly. And then like, he just kind of turns around and just like, my friend was like, what is up with that guy? Oh my God. I'm like, do you not know who that is? She's like, who is it? I don't care. I don't know who any of these Korean celebrities are. I'm like, that is Psy. That's the Gangnam Style guy. And she's like, oh, I thought that suit looked familiar. So I go into work on
Didn't
Monday.
recognize him until they screamed at me while I was doing yoga.
Oh my God. So I go to work on Monday, and I'm telling my direct boss, the desk editor of the entertainment desk at the Herald, I'm telling her all about this, and we're laughing. I was like, yeah, and then I went to like the after party, and I got to, Yoon Do-hyun drove me in his car, and this and that, and blah, blah, blah. She's like, so you gave Psy your business card, right? And I'm like, what? Oh shit.
Oh no.
Yeah,
Emma.
and you could have gotten, I mean, we would have to go through his managers and everything, but you didn't tell him that you're an entertainment reporter. And I'm like, it didn't even cross my mind. And I'm like, I wasn't even supposed to be there. Like, I was terrified if I had obviously, like, I knew who I was. Scott knew who I was. Like, the people that I knew there knew that I was a reporter, but nobody else did. And so I was terrified. I'm like, yeah, I'm an entertainment reporter. Here's my card. They're going to be like, security, get this white girl out. Get her out. Get her out. We can't get drunk in front of the press. Get her out.
Emma,
we were getting all sorts of effed up that night. But
you could be sipping Cristal right now with Scooter Braun and Justin Bieber.
But and then literally just a couple weeks later, Gangnam Style exploded internationally.
It exploded really fast, hey?
Yeah. It's just not that long after that. This was like that short period in between, like when it came out in Korea and then when the rest of the world discovered it.
Yeah.
And my boss was just like, yeah, and we could have had a Psy interview. And I'm like, first of all, what makes you think he would agree to an interview with me? Like, I'm a no-name foreign reporter at the Korea Herald. No offense to the Korea Herald, but
I offend the Korea Herald all the time.
Who just sassed him before giving him her card.
Oh yeah, who sassed him? I sassed him. What makes you think he was gonna? Nah.
That's a great story.
That's a great story.
That's how I met Psy.
That's
what a
great.
Like the random white girl that he shoved out of the way so that he could get closer to Tiesto.
And to this day, that's how her Twitter profile identifies her.
Yes, that random girl that Psy shoved.
That's right.
Shy son.
One time, Regina George punched me. It was great.
It was so great. But hey, I mean, I made up for it. Years later, I got an interview with Drunken Tiger that she'd been wanting an interview with Drunken Tiger for years, and I finally got that. So
nice.
I made up for it. I came through years later. I sat down with Tiger, JK, Tasha, and Busy. So she forgot about the side debacle.
That's good.
Okay.
That's good.
I
think of other people. I've pissed off. Try to think of celebrities I've pissed off. I pissed off Howard Zinn. But no, only the nerds know. Only like political and history nerds know who Howard Zinn is, or people who watched Good Will Hunting. But yeah, I messed up an interview.
Go on.
Oh no, I messed up an interview. I was producer for a talk show, and I scored an interview with him to go on the show, and I told the studio and I told his people different days for the interview. So we surprised him for the interview. And so he was really pissed off about it. I know. And this is a guy I like really admired too. If you're familiar with the book, People's History of the United States, he wrote that. So yeah, pissed him off. On the other hand, Bernie Sanders liked me. So that was cool.
There you go. That makes up for it.
Bernie would call me at my house. It was 2003. No one knew who he was back then. So he was bored. He's like, he would call me at my house.
That's awesome.
I mean, not just randomly. It would be after the show, and that's the number they had to contact.
And, at 11:30 every night. I've been drinking too much.
But it was great.
I've been thinking about my mother.
It was great. It was fun back then. It was like he was just some Vermont. He wasn't even a senator. He was just a congressman from Vermont, and it was just so that was the number they had for us for the official show number because I was producing it, even though I was producing it from my house in Atlanta. And so, like, he'd finished doing the interview, and the show's over, and then my phone would ring, and I'm like, "Hello." He's like, "Hey, Joe, this is Bernie." He's like, "I had a great time on your show," and he'd sit down and we'd shoot the shit for 30 minutes. We just talk.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I think just normal stuff. It's like like what are your plans for this weekend? Stuff like that.
Well, as
I don't have any drinks with you, Bernie. That's my plan.
As U.S. political figures, like Bernie's got to be on the short list of probable best hangs. You know, like if you're going to actually just hang out with a political figure, an American political figure, I think Bernie would be kind of a fun guy to, kill a few hours with.
Yeah, I think AOC would be kind of fun too.
She would be fun too. She would be fun too. I think it depends on the context. Like she's a former bartender, so if
right. That's what I was about to say.
So, like if you're like hanging around the bars in New York, she'd be the one who like knew where to go, and she's like, I know the bartender.
Her whole little coalition group. There's the senator from the representative from Michigan that she's darn, I forget people's names.
Was it the Squad? Are you talking about?
No, I don't know.
Not sure.
Anyway, she has this group, and they seem like they're really fun. They'd be really fun.
Yeah, let's be on her AOC squad. I want to be on her squad. See, yeah, I know how to use new words.
I think she'd be an all right hang. I think she'd be a good hang.
Yeah, Bernie was cool, and
a lot of them wouldn't though. Hey, like most of the politicians I watch on TV, most of them just seem really either wooden or like annoying, or the kind of guy who's like, the uncle at your Thanksgiving who's just ranting and rambling, and it's like, oh no, please don't get him onto the highway system. Please don't bring up the highway system. We'll be here for hours, or whatever it is.
I want to hang out with the Obamas.
Yeah, I would love that too. I'm reading his latest book now. I think we had Jake Tapper on our show way back, and no one knew him. I think he was working for Slate or Salon back then. No one, but I was always following him, and he was yeah. Anyway, I'm trying to think of who. Oh, you're Canadian. David Suzuki.
He's a scientist, not a politician, though.
But he was big. He was big in Canada. Yeah, that's one of those guys That's one of those guys who called me at my house and just talked for an hour.
That's pretty cool, man. David Suzuki was awesome when I was young. David Suzuki.
I got so many fun stories from working on that show. And the thing was, we were just a really small show, but we were the only progressive show at the time, basically.
Oh yeah.
So it was really easy to get people to go on the show because people didn't have an outlet back then.
Right.
This is on the lead up to the Iraq War. And so I was able to get through a lot of people. So I made it a fun, once you start getting Bernie Sanders and a few Congress people on.
Yeah. And once you get a few, you can get more, right?
Well, yeah, I would start playing a game. It's like I didn't hold us back. I didn't let our size hold us back. I was trying to see the biggest celebrity we could get. So I was on the phone with Jimmy Carter's secretary and Willie Nelson's assistant.
Mm-hmm.
I got Moby's landline in New York for his home. I still have it. I was cleaning up my desk. And I came across that. So the big one, one I was trying to get through was Janine Garofalo.
Oh yeah.
And I got as far as her people, her agent, I think it was. And she's like, I don't think Janine would really want to do your show. And she's because she was really big back then, and we were minuscule. And then a while later, and in fact, I had already left the show because I was getting ready to come to Korea. Got an email from her agent saying, "Turns out Janine's a fan of your show."
My god!
Turns out she's one of our listeners.
That's awesome.
That's so cool.
So that was my final. That was my final task.
Your final validation.
Final achievement I did was I got Janine Garofalo on the show.
Nice. That's awesome.
I was happy with that.
One time when I was going into a radio show, George Takei came out.
Oh, when
you were there.
I was there,
Joe. I passed it. We passed in the hallway, and I got a selfie with George Takei while he was coming out of being interviewed at TBS Radio once.
Yes, by Walter Foreman.
That's about as close brush with fame as I've come. I would
really?
Say. Oh. Yeah, I got a selfie with.
Oh, come on!
Once.
You and I were on Running Man together.
We were on Running. That's true, actually. And UJ Sok, we got a selfie with UJ Sok, and he's about as big as it gets in Korea.
Yeah, it is, and the camera did not shutter on time because I was trying to get this camera. There was some delay with the camera because if it did on time, I was gonna plant a big kiss on him. Right when I was doing the self, it didn't work. So now it's just an awkward picture of us.
Of Joe going.
No,
with UJ Sok.
But yeah, we were on that show with Jennifer and Simon and Martina, and that was fun.
Nick Kuhn was on there too.
Nick Kuhn from 2 a.m. or is it 2 p.m.?
PM. But UJ Sok though, I'm in awe of that man.
Oh God, how does he have so much energy? First
of all, that he has been on so many shows for so long. He always he just reads the room so well.
I agree with that.
He always brings out something interesting or funny about all of the people on his shows.
Yeah.
And you go look it up. That dude, he's got that funny thing where he's he's photogenic, but not handsome, which means that he's never better looking than any of his guests, which I think it's kind of like, don't be prettier than the bride. Right?
Yeah.
Don't be handsomer than the guests that you have on your show. Don't be handsomer than the TV star on your show.
That's He's not a note card reader because I've been on shows with famous people and they're reading from cards most of the time and they're very stiff.
But he's not a prima donna. He seems seems just like a nice guy, but also, dude has not aged a day.
That is true.
He's like the Keanu Reeves of Korea.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Are we gonna be finding pictures of him from the 1800s? UJ, so he's the vampire of Korea.
Maybe I now I want to go into some old paintings and see what we can find because he has been I actually looked this up and I was like, what did UJ Sok look like when he first came out? And it's exactly. Keanu Reeves level agelessness here that we're talking about. It's uncanny.
Yeah, that is true.
Now we're gonna start searching for old historical paintings of people that look like Yoo Jae-suk.
I think we should just put his image into a Google image scan and see what comes up.
See what happens.
Yeah, that's right. Wait a minute. Wait. One of the terracotta warriors looks just like this guy.
Oh my god.
You know that mask. You know that mask that they have in the symbol of Gyeongju.
Oh yeah, the cracked mask. Yeah,
the cracked mask. It's a dead ringer for Yoo Jae-suk.
Has been around forever.
He sure has. Well, he's one of the lost mask dance masks. You know, there's the Yangban mask and the one of the lost masks is Yoo Jae-suk.
The MC mask.
Yeah, that's right. The MC mask. Yep.
Yeah, he's been around. Yeah.
I think most of my celebrity experiences, it's been about 50-50. Like, because I think a lot of people assume that I've met a lot of celebrities through my work in journalism by like interviewing them and stuff. Actually, a lot of people that I've met, I just randomly ran into them.
Yeah, your stories are random things.
I have so many random stories. Like the night I was on my way to Philly's a couple days before Halloween, and my Game of Thrones group chat just flips out. And I'm like, I'm trying to it keeps interrupting my music, and I'm getting angry. I'm like, what? And King Joffrey is having beers at Philly's. And okay, I will literally see you there. Not because I was already on my way there. I was helping set up for their Halloween party. No, but then we ended up getting really drunk with him and his friends that night, and then again on Halloween.
That's so cool.
And you didn't call me, Emma.
Shaun White randomly hugged me at the Olympics, and I'm forever memorialized on his highlight reel for his last Winter Olympics.
Oh wow!
NBC they do like big highlight reels at the end, and like he won his third gold medal, and there was like a huge group of people that were still hanging around waiting for him to come back.
Mm-hmm.
And me and my best friend Sherry hung around. We're like, he's not going to come back, but we're like, we have nothing better to do, so let's just freeze our asses off in minus 20-degree weather.
It was freezing
on the off chance that Shaun White might come back.
And that's a thing we do.
Before that, we'd actually ended up talking to a lot of the American snowboarders. Like, I took a selfie with Ariel Gold, who had won. She won the bronze in women's half pipe. Of course, everybody was always all about Chloe Kim. But I got to take a picture and chat with Ariel Gold for a bit. And then we met a lot of like the other snowboarders. And then he comes by and everybody's like losing it. And one of my friends that we were standing with had this giant Shaun White sign, and that got us on TV so much that day. Oh my God. So many messages from all over the world. We had friends who are like in Europe. They're like, you're on Eurosport right now.
That's great.
Right now, you're on what was it? Is it CBC, the Canadian one?
Yep, Canadian Broadcasting CBC. Corporation.
We were on like some Dutch channel. Like, it was basically just global bingo to see how many networks we were going to get spotted on that week.
That's
but
so
definitely
super.
at the Shaun at the men's half pipe, we got on pretty much all the time. So she like held it out over because there were like two barriers separating us, and she held it out to him and asked him to sign it, and he grabs it and he takes one, and I'm like, I'm filming this. Like, I have my phone. I'm like, this is okay. This is cool. I'm going to film this. And he looks up and he's like, you know what? I'm just going to come over. And everybody's like, oh my God. And like, suddenly we're just like up against the I'm like, oh, this is not comfortable. He completely ignores this huge line of Korean fans, comes straight up to our little small group of Americans, and like grabs me and my best friend Sherry and pulls us into this giant hug. And I'm like,
oh,
is this happening? What the holy
That's
cow?
cool.
Shaun
That
White,
is so cool.
Shaun White, I watched you were up there and you did the things, and then now you're here and now you're hugging me. And
Oh, that's so cool.
And
Aw.
I was singing a song with Hoda Cobb just like 30 minutes before this, and now Sean White's hugging me. And it was insane. And I got it all on video. Like, it's all on video. You just see this like his coat for like a few seconds, and then he backs up.
Oh wow.
And he like chatted with us. So it's like, and then a few weeks later, my friend, one of my friends from college, she like posts a video and links me to it on Facebook. She's like, do you know that you're in Sean White's highlight reel? And I'm like, what? And it's like a great dramatic slow-mo shot where like you see him like hug me. He's going back, and then you can see me, and I'm just like grinning like crazy. And I've got like "Go USA" painted on my cheek and my American flag sunglasses. I'm just like, I'm forever. I'm in your thing. This is
I'll have to look that up sometime.
Yeah, so I think the video it's on like my timeline somewhere, but
Oh, it is? I'll
yeah,
scroll through
and
your
then,
timeline like a stalker. Sure.
yeah, like you haven't done it already. And then there was the time that Michael Rooker came up to me at Comic-Con Seoul while I was dressed up as Fleur de la Cour eating Singaporean chips. And he just walks up and puts his hand and takes out some of the chips. He's like, how are you doing? And I'm like, good, just eat. I'm eating some chips. He stood there and talked to me for 10 minutes about
Well, you
awesome.
really have a thing with celebrities invading your personal space.
They really like to invade my person. Is it something about me? Is it my face, or do I have that look that somebody's like, I can invade her personal space and she's gonna be okay with it?
It's that step on my toe t-shirt you wear.
Yeah, that's totally it. But yeah, no, like we were completely surrounded by all these people with like cameras and stuff, and he's just chatting with me and like eating some chips. He's like, where'd you get these chips? Like, I don't know, my friend from Singapore gave them to me because I didn't eat lunch, I was busy. And he just, yeah, it was like, oh my god, what the hell? And all of my friends, I was sitting in front of the White Lies Burlesque booth that they had at Comic-Con, and they're all losing their shit. They're like, what the what did you do? And I'm like, I don't. Is it because I'm dressed up in like a Harry Potter? I don't know. I'm just. But that was fun. Like thankfully somebody got a picture of it, so it's like I have proof.
He's Michael Rooker. He's a funny star because like the first time I saw him was on The Walking Dead, and he was so menacing in that. And then the next time I saw him was Guardians of the Galaxy, and he is so funny.
Mm-hmm.
So that's like,
yeah, that's why he was here.
Yeah, it was.
Oh, okay. He's promoting Guardians of the Galaxy.
I'm not sure. I think no, I think it had been a while. They took like a fan vote. That's how they chose their guests. So they did a poll, like a big survey on all of their social media, and then they tried to get like the top 3 people.
Mm-hmm.
So they got I think number 1 was oh my god. His name is
God?
just
Oh.
No. His name
Billy Boy.
He's so hard to book.
His name has completely flipped out of my mind. Ezra Miller. There we go. I was like Emma. Ezra Miller. Miller was number 1.
You're getting close to middle age. That happens all the time.
Yeah. So Ezra Miller and I think Michael Rooker was in like the top 5.
Okay.
But yeah, and then the next year, I got to interview Palm Clementif. So I met another Guardians of the Galaxy person.
Cool.
Very cool.
He was.
So Joe, what's our topic for today?
I don't have a topic.
We don't have a topic.
We're winging it. We're just winging it because we knew with you that we wouldn't have to worry about a topic. We're trying to keep it.
We don't need to plan anything.
We're keeping it focused on Korea. We started off talking about the Zeitgeist and the Korean Zeitgeist, and then we talked about Korean celebrities
celebrities.
All of my celebrity stories that I told happened in Korea.
Yeah.
There you go.
I think have I told this one? Oh man, should I tell this one again?
We said earlier, actually, I have a question for you. We said earlier, which politician would be the best hang? Which famous Korean do you think would be the best hang?
Oh my. I have to think about that one.
Sorry, my dog just snored. I was like, what?
Oh, the dog is snoring.
Yeah, Morgan passed out behind. Where's Pippin? Oh my god.
Oh, who would
Pippin
be?
hasn't invaded the podcast. He always invades the podcast.
I could tell people like okay, who's the best hang? I mean, people I really want to meet though, or
because it's always a different list, right? Like,
okay, from what I hear, Ishori's pretty fun.
I would like to hang out with Ihyori.
I've heard that too. She's really chill, but she's really like
she's a big drinker too.
Good to hang out with.
Yeah,
a bit. Sorry,
a big drink. I mean, she parties.
Okay,
she parties.
Okay, not chill. Like it would be like really mellow, but just like a good person to hang out with.
Yeah. Shori.
I mean, I'd like to meet Gong Yu, but that's just because I think he's hot.
Yeah,
and a great actor.
Yeah, see, I ask my students questions like this sometimes, and instead of being like the fact is the person who would be nice to hang out with is not always the same as your favorite celebrity.
Yeah.
Right?
True.
Like you think
that's
about.
I was trying to think hard about it, and that's why Shori came to mind too. But I also really want to meet her in general.
Yeah, one time I asked on Facebook, which fictional character do you think would be a good friend? And people are saying things like Iron Man. Iron Man would be a terrible friend. He's so self-absorbed.
Yeah, that's
right?
It's like having Elon Musk as a friend.
Most main characters on most TV shows and movies are the kind of people that are fun to watch, but would be horrible people to actually have in your life.
Yes, that is true.
You know, but somebody like Sam Gamgee. Like he would be a really like an actual good friend, you know.
Yeah. And he knows how to make some taters.
That's right. He'd be a good guy to have in your corner.
If you sprained your ankle, he would carry you around.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
but it's the same thing with celebrities, right? Like the most famous celebrity is probably not actually fun to be around. The most famous celebrity, a lot of them are probably princes and princesses and stuff like that, you know, like
I know a celebrity that like I'm still trying to think about a Korean celebrity, definitely international celebrity. I want to hang out with Donald Gleason.
Patrick Stewart.
I want to have beer
Donald
with
Gleason.
Donald.
Yeah.
I feel like that would be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. Those are that's probably where the really nice ones are, is not the top tier, not the Tom Cruises, but the middle tier, the Donald Gleason level celebrities, you know, like the Tim Roth level.
Actually, okay, now you said Donald, it's Donald Glover.
Ooh, that would be
fun. He would be great.
I want to hang out with Donald Glover.
Yeah.
He would be a fun guy to hang out with.
Maybe he'll watch this and he'll call us up. We can
I could be on your show, guys.
We need to tag Donald Glover and be like, yo.
Yeah, come here. I used to live in Atlanta.
And you know, the fun thing is like anything can happen now, right? Like Frank Oz liked one of my tweets one time.
Oh, that's cool. Ooh.
Yeah. Like the voice of Yoda liked one of my tweets. Who else? Dante, this is kind of a deep cut. Dante Basco, the actor for Rufio.
Rufio, hold on. No, thinking of someone else. Who's Rufio?
From Hook.
Oh, geez, Rufio. Oh my God. But no. But he's a voice on Avatar: The Last Airbender.
He was also the voice of Zuko on Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Yes, that's how I know him.
And Rufio.
But yeah, definitely Avatar. I mean, the voice of Zuko, dude.
One of my, my friend Eugene, right, the Cafe Soul podcast guy. He wrote an article about how Rufio was like one of the best roles for an Asian male actor of his childhood, and he wrote an article about like here are all the times I saw an Asian man in in the movies that I saw when I was young. And it was incredibly slim pickings. One of them was like, unless you've got power, guy from Back to the Future 2. Like, that's how slim the pickings were.
I remember.
And guys like Long Duck Dong say some serious stereotype crap.
Yeah, that is the poster child for embarrassing 80s stereotypes.
Like, it's weak sauce. The way that Asian men were represented in Hollywood in that time was really, really bad.
Yeah.
There was an Asian guy in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, I think.
Yeah.
There was a like a teenage guy who meets the turtles, and he helps them with some stuff.
You know what? Asian representation in the Seoul Podcast.
Yeah, it's called Soul Podcast, and we got 3 whiteys here.
I know.
I
tell you this, I'm always conscious of our makeup on here, and no one wants to. I try to get people to go on, and they don't go on. And it's like, okay.
Well, at least you have a woman.
Yay! Yay!
You get half a point for that, like half.
Half a point.
Half a point.
Millennial woman on top of that.
Oh yeah, I am. I am a millennial, aren't I?
Yeah,
that's right. You were born in the 80s, and we were born in the 70s. So that means we're multi-generational.
Multi-generational.
Wow. That's another half point.
We're international because Rob's Canadian.
Oh ho!
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not only.
I remember the
I
first
think
time
we
I
have
was
diverse eye colors.
The first time I was on the 3 different blood types. We checked that earlier.
3 different blood types.
Yes. Yes.
You're checking all those diversity.
No, but I am joking. I've joked about this for the longest time. Ever since the early days, I've been trying to get more Koreans on the show. And it's so difficult to get them to come on the show. Them. Did I just say them? To get
them. I think you did, Joe.
Get Koreans to come on the show. Yeah, those people. Yeah.
Like, for anybody who's not a native English speaker, this is like the most anxiety fraught situation you can be in, though, isn't it?
Oh, I'm trying to think of like friends of mine who've done this on the Korean side. Todd Sample's a good example of it, who's actually gone on Korean TV in Korean on a business show talking about business and politics in Korean. I admire him for doing that. No matter how good I get at Korean, I don't see I could ever do something like that.
That's scary, right? Like that, and you're putting yourself out there. And the other thing is, like, even if I meet you in a coffee shop and you make some grammar errors, it's off into the ether, right?
Yeah.
But if you fuck up a few, if you say I eat out my wife instead of I eat out with my wife, which somebody did one time, a student did that in a class, and like in a class is like, okay, well, but here there's a permanent recording of me making that mistake, right? And it's there forever. And so I understand the reservation. I understand the concern.
But even the native speakers say stuff like that. We have a famous clip of Michael Hurt back in the day talking about something coming into his mouth. Like, whoa, what? And he caught himself right after he said that. He's like, yeah, that's not right.
Good old.
It's got to come into your mouth. That's what he said. It's got to come into your mouth.
What is it? I actually looked this up. It turns out That's What She Said jokes are actually much older than you think.
Oh, really?
Yep. But it used to be in the UK, and some people still do. Instead of "That's what she said," they say said the actress to the bishop.
That's so British.
Said the actress to the bishop.
Yes, said the actress to the bishop is the
and we know what the bishop is a metaphor for.
Is the old-timey British version of "That's What She Said." So how about that? Yeah, it's old, but it's still so good. Said the actress to the bishop.
Huh. Wow. What a useful phrase that I will never use.
I am going to try and incorporate that.
I've always I've always been interested in that. Like, what's the old timey version of the thing that we do, right? So the other one I looked up one time, you know how on the internet these days, everybody's like, oh, you're a Nazi. Oh, you're as bad as Hitler. So I was like, okay, before Hitler, who was that person?
Napoleon.
Right? Who was Hitler before Hitler? Who did people say, this Hitler guy, man, he's just the next who?
And who did I want to say was,
you know, he's the next Lord Nelson. He's the next Duke Leopold, right? Like, who was it?
Did you find the answer?
Yes, I did.
What is it?
Robespierre.
Oh, Robespierre. Yep.
Robespierre from the French Revolution.
But people have said that because they talked about Antichrist and they said Napoleon was one of the Antichrists or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then then it was Hitler was the Antichrist.
Yeah, Hitler was the Antichrist. But
people thought Obama was the Antichrist. There's always an Antichrist.
Only Antichrist would think Obama's the Antichrist. And only the Sith speak in absolutes.
I've always loved that.
I love every podcast I'm on. I gotta sneak a Star Wars quote or Star Wars reference.
I love his whole. From my point of view.
Oh, I hate that line. From my
point of view, the Jedi are evil.
If he just didn't have to say from my point of view, he didn't have to tag that on there. It's like, well, that's my opinion.
Yeah. Well, okay. The phrase that comes here's another of those new phrases that people are using nowadays. He's just speaking his truth. His truth or their truth.
Ah.
Oh, yeah.
That's one that I've heard people have picked that up and they're using that now, like as if truth is so negotiable.
Oh boy.
It's a lot of YouTubers are using it now.
Oh,
yeah,
really?
my truth or his truth. And that's I don't like using the word truth that way, but that's one of those things.
Truthiness. I mean, that's a holdover from the Bush era, you would say. I mean, truthiness. Stephen Colbert was making fun of that one. Or he invented it.
Well, he invented the term.
Did he invent the term truthiness, or was he quoting a Bush speech or Rumsfeld speech?
But that whole, I mean, taking reality and making it negotiable. I mean, that goes, George Orwell wrote about that, right? Like freedom is slavery and all that, right?
Yeah.
Like, or and people who want to get mad about it always quote, what is it, Goebbels, who said, you know, like just if a lie becomes a truth if you repeat it often enough or whatever it is.
Or the bigger the lie, the easier it is to sell, something like that.
Yeah. And that's, you know, I mean, the idea that if you control what people think of as truth, you can control people is very, very, very old.
Oh yeah. Like we talked about that a lot in journalism school.
Yeah. Yeah. I have a lot of opinions about journalism right now.
No, those are your truths.
They are my truths.
They're your truths. Yeah. You got to get down with what the kids are saying.
Got to get down with what the kids are saying.
Yeah. But I just remember my journalism professor would always tell us, like, if your mother says she loves you, ask somebody else. Like, he was always just kind of like drilling into our heads that just because a person says something doesn't necessarily mean it's true, and you have to back it up with evidence. And
actually, it was funny. It was my Old Testament teacher in boarding school, but no, this guy was really good because he was trying to teach the Bible as an academic subject.
Yeah.
In the sense that it was something you had to really, especially Old Testament is all about names and events. It is like a historical document in a way. So, and he taught us a great way to taking notes that I still do to this day. But we'd have to turn in papers very frequently on topics. And he came down and said, a lot of you really, I know you're young, but one thing you learn when you get older is the world does not revolve around you. So saying something is so does not make it so. You need to give me sources.
Oh, yep.
Says the Bible teacher. But no.
Well, but that
Well,
was
because of him and that course, I got so much of an education in the Old Testament. I know more about the Old Testament than most Bible thumpers out there.
my father is a pastor. I grew up in
Yeah, you grew
church,
up with it, yeah.
and so I was basically, that's the juice I was pickled in as a youth. But I also actually, a Bible class was like I took this New Testament class where they talked about the Gospels, and that's a really good example of multiple attestation, right?
That is true.
Finding sources and checking sources against each other,
And
to
see the background of the messenger giving that.
Yeah, and when you compare, like Matthew with Mark and Mark with Luke and Luke with John,
Mhm.
right? And you see the places where the story differs,
And then Yoko
compared
gets
to
involved.
the places where they agree. Like that was the first exposure I had to the process of fact checking.
It was Mark was more of a tight, was really tight, tight ass, I want to say. No, he was uptight, wasn't
Well,
he?
Mark was probably the earliest.
He was more of wagging his finger, and he was the moralist of everyone. He just didn't like what a lot of people were doing. Matthew seemed like the positivist. He was just the nice one, and saying nice, blessed are the meek, all that stuff, the Beatitudes, and John
was the philosopher, but like the other thing is probably Matthew and Luke were written based on Mark. Mark was probably written the earliest, and then Matthew and Luke, they're so similar to Mark that they were probably written with Mark as the base text. But John wasn't. John is different enough that it was probably written independently. So if something is in Mark and John, then that's a type of multiple attestation. Whereas if it's in Mark and Matthew, then that's like two people using the same source, right? And you get that down in your filter bubbles, in your filter silos now, where Fox News says it's true. And, well, what do you mean? It was on InfoWars and Fox News and RealAmerica.com. Well, it's on all three of those places because it was on Fox News.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I used to talk, man, that's weird too.
How did we get to script? Wow, biblical analysis. We started
biblical
off
analysis in Newsmax. All right.
Yeah.
What?
I used to talk to Newsmax a lot. We go to Newsmax. I would go to Newsmax for some of our Fire and Brimstone guests for our show, and they were okay. We had good conservative guests on our show, and then we had the Newsmax guests. It's just. They were just not a fun people to deal with. I mean,
I hear Pippin getting into something. I'll be right back.
Yeah, Heritage Society was great to deal with. They were, I would exchange Thanksgiving recipes with my counterpart at the Heritage Foundation. The Newsmax were just rude, just nasty.
Oh,
them and the Ayn Rand. The Ayn Rand people were pretty unprofessional. And the Enterprise Institute was okay, but Heritage was the coolest bunch out of the conservative farms we would get our guests from, and Newsmax was just nuts. I mean, Newsmax was there wasn't even a central source, like phone number I could go to for Newsmax. I would look up the information of people who wrote specific articles and track them down.
Okay, yeah,
it was weird.
Well,
my stories. Steer it back to Korea. I gotta wrap it up. I gotta wrap it up in the next 5 minutes, though.
Yeah, we should probably end it with something about Korea. Right. The question that none of us ever answered: if you could hang out with a Korean celebrity, who would it be?
Oh, I said Lee Hyori.
Oh, you said Lee Hyori. I never answered. Did you answer? I couldn't think of one.
You've already hung out with the cool ones.
I don't know. Like, I used to hang out with Skull a lot, and he was cool. I miss him. Maybe I'll hang out with him again. That's my celebrity.
I mean,
Korean reggae artist. Yeah.
I mean, talk about someone like you. Like, I've always liked Chun Ji-yeon, but I'm not sure about hanging out with her.
I crossed paths with her in a bakery once.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
but I
that's
have
all.
no
We just
idea.
like we made eye contact, and that was all.
I have no idea how she would be like, so I can't make any. I'm not going to make any snide remarks or anything. I just don't know.
I feel like
I don't know anything she
wait,
does in her private life. You don't see her on any of those shows.
Hmm.
you
Oh,
know who would
Moon
probably
Gun
be
Young.
fun? Who?
Moon Gun Young.
Which
Um,
one is that?
from
She's an
Tale
actor.
of Two Sisters. The
She
horror
was
movie.
Korea's little sister for
Yes.
a while
Yeah,
back in the day.
Oh, okay, yeah. No. Now
with
I
the
know who you're talking
eyebrows.
about. Yeah.
Yeah, I like her. I think she actually would be fun to talk philosophy and politics with, because she's been involved with a few things, and her family history. I think she has an uncle or a grandfather. Grandfather, I think, is North Korea, or something like that.
I don't know. I think Bong Joon-ho would be pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah.
I've heard lots of good things about him. Like, he's very down to earth and chill, and he just, I don't know, seeing the excitement when he won the Oscar, I'm like, I want to be your buddy. You just
Yeah,
look
that is
good.
true. That is
You
true.
look like a really good buddy.
I loved his acceptance speeches. His tribute to Martin Scorsese. I like almost cried at that point. That there was just so much respect and grace in that moment.
Oh, that
was
is true. That is true.
And we
That
may
was-
That
see
was a good
another
Oscars.
South-
That was a really good Oscars, in my opinion.
That was a good one. We may see another South Korean on the Oscar stage this year.
Oh,
That
tell us
was-
about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, the actress, the Harmony from Minari, she's getting so much Oscar buzz right now.
The grandmother.
I forgot her name. She plays the grandmother. She's a South Korean actress. Where are you, Yonhap News? I forgot her name. No, she's like a classic. She's been acting for a long time. Yoon Ya Jung. She plays the grandmother
Mhm.
in Minari, and she's already won a couple of awards in the States.
Oh, has the Golden Globes? The Golden Globes have happened now, haven't they?
Oh,
Yeah.
Yoon Yeol-jung. Yeah, she's been around forever.
No, Golden Globes have not.
I haven't heard anything, but I don't think I've had my finger on the pulse of the Golden
Wait,
Globes.
have the Golden Globes happened?
They happened in
Everything is
January.
everything is just so out of whack this year.
Yeah, everything's delayed right now.
I remember we've had the Emmys. I remember the Emmys.
Yeah.
Schitt's Creek won so many things.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. Yeah, everything's delayed. In Korea, we were just working on our taxes, and they said, "Oh, we delayed it. You don't have to do that until February. You just have to do it in January."
Yeah.
That's all been delayed. We've
Oh,
had
they're
so
gonna
many
be
delays.
yeah, everything's being pushed back. So Golden Globes will be February 28th.
Oh, so they have not happened yet. There's a
haven't
February
happened yet.
20. Okay, February 28th.
So it will be broadcast on the February 28th. So Oscars are going to be March, because usually Oscars are just a few weeks. It's
March.
like Golden Globes, then usually it's the Screen Actors
Actors
Guild
Guild?
Award. Aren't they usually in between the Golden
I
Globes and
remember. I think I specifically remember the Golden Globes are usually in January. I think
Last year, the Oscars were early, I think.
it's a good
Yeah,
month.
last
It's a
year
good
they
month
were
between the
early
two.
February. They were early February Oscars last year, I believe.
Oh yeah, because it was
But yeah.
before lockdowns.
It was before COVID.
It was
Screwed up
it was just getting into Korea. I remember because I was watching the Oscars. It must have been in February because I didn't have classes yet. I was watching the Oscars and rooting for Parasite. And when my wife came home from work, one of the people at her work had a COVID scare and had to go down to the hospital and get tested.
Oh my!
So
we didn't really have tests yet.
She was having so it was late enough that they had tests, but she was having like the worst day you can imagine.
And she walks in and you're like, Parasite won!
So I pick her up at work and I'm like, oh, Bong Joon-ho, and she's like, because she just hadn't been able to enjoy the entire day. She had been stressing out because like if her workplace had a positive test, especially early when Korea didn't have many cases yet.
Yeah.
Like there were restaurants that were destroyed forever because there had been cases in their restaurant, you know, and they were on the news and they like blurred out the sign, but everybody's like, yeah, I know which place that is.
Restaurant.
If that had been my wife's workplace, it would have been really, really bad news. So for her, it was just like her entire career is like on a what do you call it?
A teeter-totter?
On a teeter-totter, on the edge of a
needle.
Precipice. Yes, on the precipice, on a knife's edge. And I'm sitting there going, yeah, Bong Joon-ho, Martin Scorsese, hey. So she didn't enjoy the moment.
You're at the office? I was just by myself.
Our entire office erupted into cheers. Like, because they had it on, because we always have news playing.
Yeah.
But they had the Oscars going. And so anytime he won, everybody up and down the office.
That's like, great. Oh, that's great.
Awesome. I remember.
I enjoyed,
Go ahead.
Oh, I was like, I enjoy moments like that. Like that's when, working in the news industry is kind of fun.
The Olympics are the best for that. I remember when Yana Kim won her gold medal. Like I was actually supposed to be teaching a class, and I came in and my students were like, Mr. O, we're not doing class today. We're watching Yana Kim. They already have the TV on. They already have the sports station on. No, and it was like, yep, okay. And then when she won, everybody cheered. And then, but right after her was Asada Mao, who was the only competition who had a shot at beating her. And so they had to wait for her. And when her scores didn't measure up, all the way down the hallway, every other classroom as well, you could hear the shouting. It was great. That was
I was at Arirang TV when that happened. And so I think I happened to be there. I think, but what was just as cool as that was...
You're Arirang when Yana Kim got it. Is that what you're saying?
When she won gold. Yeah. And then I was there when they announced the Winter Olympics for 2018. We had a special, because it was going to be announced at midnight. So we had a special broadcast, and
we were at Arirang at the same time.
Yeah, like because I typically would finish work at 10, but they made me stay 2 hours later that day because we were doing a special live broadcast.
I was doing a travel show at the time, and the one we did on Pyeongchang supposedly was made for the Olympic IOC to try to convince them, to go for Pyeongchang. And I was supposed to do it with Yana Kim, but she backed out.
Bummer.
Oh, whatever.
She's on my short list.
I was not expecting.
Yana Kim.
Yeah.
She's on my short list of celebs I would meet. But here's my fun thing. In 2003, I lived near Jamsil. And after work sometimes at like 10 o'clock when my classes ended, I would walk down to Lotte World to, just take a walk. And there were some places to eat there. And it was a nice big empty hallways to wander around after everything closed. But sometimes the ice skaters would come. And a couple of, after the public skating was finished, a few ice skaters would come out. And sometimes I would just sit on a bench and just watch them skate around. And one of them was a little taller and a little lankier and a little more graceful than all of the others. Years later, I found out that I had been watching 12-year-old Yana Kim.
Wow.
At Lotte World, practicing even before she went to Canada. On my...
There aren't that many ice rinks to practice on.
There aren't, no. Yeah. And her mom finagled some way for her to practice after public hours closed at Lotte World.
Wow.
And so years before she was famous, when I used to watch 12-year-old Yana Kim.
That's pretty far because they lived in Gumpo, which is it's a big drive.
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
Yep.
That's
so
easy to do for your dream.
That's probably my closest. That's probably my favorite brush with fame here in Korea. I think
that's like you saw. I knew them before they were famous, man.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that was
Before they sold out, man.
Before they sold out. All that corporate Olympic stuff.
oh my god.
Back when
Yeah.
skating was real at Lotte World.
Yeah.
Yeah. No commercialization whatsoever.
That's
Yeah.
right. Let me just take off this animal head. Yeah.
Well, I think with that we'll wrap up. Rob, anyways, anything you want to plug before we wrap up?
Let's see. Roboseyo is still my website, but I don't update there very much. The biggest updates I did last year, I did a bunch of reviews of plague-themed films based
They're
on the
good.
coronavirus panic, but that was early last year. I've done a few
Right.
YouTube things. Roboseyo is my YouTube handle, and the main thing that I've been doing lately is the Cafe Soul podcast, which used to be a culture show, but my partner Eugene loves getting nerdy about time travel films and like analyzing the logic of time travel films. So we've been using the Cafe Soul podcast to look at time travel films and try to figure, you're watching a movie and you're like, wait a minute, that's illogical. How could Doc know that? And if Marty did that, this wouldn't happen. And, things like that, right?
Dude,
that
I would
photo,
get into those discussions. I would get into
that
those.
Back to the Future, that photo where Marty's fading, that's not how time travel would work.
No, that wouldn't work.
Well,
that was a plot
Eugene
device.
gets all the way into that and tries to kind of brute force logic his way through until the paradoxes are no longer paradoxes. And it's kind of amazing to see.
I was a guest on one of them. It's fun.
We call this, we've been calling it time travel forensics, because you kind of look at what you see in the movie and you work backwards from that to figure out how it got there. And it's really fun. We recorded a super mega episode about the Terminator films that's in editing now.
Ooh.
And we've done Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure.
Yeah.
And
Time
we're
cop.
No, because there's a detail in
Time
Bill and
cop.
Ted's. There's a detail in Bill and Ted's. One of my old music teachers pointed out that I didn't even notice was you notice that when they got Beethoven, there are two things wrong. One, he was playing a piano. I don't think they really had pianos back then. They had harpsichords, piano fortes. Also, it was on wheels. The piano he's playing was on wheels. They didn't have wheels on pianos back then, on casters.
Yeah.
And we're gonna do About Time, right?
Emma is going to be on there at some point, and we're going to do About Time, another lovely time travel film. But it's a great way to get nerdy and really dig into a pop culture phenomenon that's really fun. So go give it a listen if you get a chance. Cafe Soul Podcast, Time Travel Forensics. And you can sit around and split hairs and argue out the paradoxes with us.
All right. That's great. Emma, anything you want to plug? Anything Groove's doing? And you're doing any shows? Okay.
We're trying to figure out what 2021 is going to look like for Groove. Or what Groove is going to look like in 2021. We've got some meetings and decisions. We will be making some changes. We're not going anywhere. Groove will still be here. We are going to go back and print.
Whoa.
Hopefully. But we're just kind of going to take things and do things a little bit differently, Pandemic is really hit us pretty hard. So we're trying to both like in terms of like advertising, and also our staff is basically non-existent.
I do miss that now. Looking back, I do miss a printed expat mag or printed English language mag
it's nice
here.
to have it in your hands. Yeah. So we're gonna try. We're trying to work. We're shooting to try and get something out maybe mid-February. Hopefully.
Okay.
Good luck fighting.
No pressure. Well, thank you guys for showing up today.
Thank you for having me.
Let's do it again. I want to do it again.
For sure.
Okay.
We
Until
didn't
next
have
time.
Pippin. Oh my god.
Yeah. Pippin wasn't jumping around the whole time.
Pippin is not here. I don't know.
I
what it
almost
is.
showed up for the New Year's show, but you've ended just as I was coming in. But I watched the whole thing, and boy, I missed Stafford's laugh.
Oh,
Stafford's
was
laugh is like
great.
one of my imprinted memories of the
Me
old
too.
Soul Podcast days.
Me too.
So it was great to hear him back.
Yeah. You don't want to hear our old shows. They're kind of embarrassing, though. I've been listening. I started listening to them again when I was archiving them, and I was like, ooh. I'm a little more nuanced in my thinking now than I was back then.
Yeah, that's another thing that happened after I went to grad school. It's like, okay, the stuff that I've been putting on my blog is like, now that I know a few things about sourcing, now that I know a few things about, I think I need a little more nuance in some of my takes here.
Yeah. Well, if you want to listen to older shows, you can become a patron at patreon.com/SeoulPodcast. I don't even plug that stuff.
You can hear the first time I was on the Soul Podcast, which was, didn't you say it was the dirtiest show ever, Joe?
Yeah, it was one of the dirtiest shows ever. Yep.
Dirty jokes. There were a lot of innuendos in that show.
Long time ago.
I feel like I really need to go listen to this one.
You can be a patron for just $5 at Patreon.
I feel like I would probably get a big kick out of it.
I remember a few jokes that Joe or maybe I made that I was like, oh man, that was a little far. And
I was a little far.
You
back
edited
then.
a couple of them out.
Maybe I did.
A couple of them got in.
Yeah. If you want to, we got it. We have the archives up there. If you're really that interested, we do have a patron. So there we go. All right. Well, anyway, until next time, be safe out there.
Stay warm. Stay safe. Thanks.
The Seoul Podcast is a production of Zenkinshi International, copyright 2021, under the Creative Commons license. Parts of this podcast may be used for non-commercial purposes if you remember to give us credit. You can contact us at sejong@soulpodcast.com. That's SEJONG@soulpodcast.com. Follow us on Twitter at King Sejong and on Facebook at facebook.com/SeoulPodcast. For a transcript of this episode, listen to it again and write down what you hear. See you next week. Until then, may you find a publisher for that book you've been writing about an ESL teacher in Korea who gets mixed up in the Korean underworld.